Hello, and welcome to another Shropshire walk. Well, we're still in lockdown, so we're going local again, and we're walking around Castlefields. Castlefields is just at the edge of the town, and there wasn't much here before the 18th century. But in the 1790s, the area was transformed by three separate developments. The first was the building of the canals, the second was the building of the Maltings, and the third, a prison. So we're going to investigate those, but we're going to start off, and it's a very pleasant walk actually. We're starting here at Castle Walks Bridge, but you can start anywhere on the loop. We're going to walk down, following the river, till we get to the new bypass at Telford Bridge. So enjoy the walk along the river.
The weir was built in 1911, which stopped any prospect of the boats sailing up and down the Severn again. Why they built it in 1911, I'm not sure, but I think it must be significant that just a few years earlier, sewage works were opened and main drains installed, because before then the River Severn was quite simply an open sewer for Shrewsbury, and putting a weir in would have just made it lie still and be an even worse problem. I think also the boating clubs, including the school, lobbied hard to improve the river for rowing on. We came for a walk just a few weeks ago, and the river was so much in flood you can barely tell the weir was there at all.
For hundreds of years, the river was Shrewsbury's essential transport link to the rest of the world. Boats, big boats, came up the river to Shrewsbury with coal and other goods, and down the river with woolen and the other kind of goods that Shrewsbury and Mid Wales produced. And it was a big thing. I've heard it said that Shrewsbury was the ninth biggest port in Britain at one time. And these boats were hauled up by gangs of men, not horses, pulled up right up from Gloucester to here. And then in the 1790s, that all more or less ended with the construction of the canal, which made the river traffic almost redundant. And certainly by 1860, the last boat sailed on the River Severn up to Shrewsbury. We've reached the Telford Way bridge over the river here. I'm going to leave the river here, so don't go under the road. Turn left, and we're going to take the second turning back towards town along the bed of the old canal. We'll join you there. From now on, we're following the bed of the disused Shrewsbury Canal. It was constructed in the 1790s, and it was vital for opening up Shrewsbury to industry. It brought coal in from Trench in Telford, but it only connected as far as Trench, and it wasn't till 1835 that it connected to the wider canal system at Newport. But it didn't last for long. By 1848, the railways had reached Shrewsbury, and the canals died a long and lingering death afterwards. It was only for bulky items like coal that it still had some kind of trade. And by the 1920s, the traffic had dried up altogether. And not long after that, the canal sprung a leak somewhere and it wasn't worth repairing and it became disused. There are ambitious plans to open up the canal again, but pipe dream at the moment. We've reached the main road out towards Whitchurch, and here the canal used to go under the road for about 200 yards and then back under, but we can't follow that now, it's been built on. But across the road is an old pub. It's called the Coach now. It used to be called the Comet, and it really is an old pub. That's where you used to get a pint when you arrived on your horse from Whitchurch, just before you got into Shrewsbury. we've reached Divrington Flax Mill, or the Maltings as it's known locally. Of all the buildings in Shrewsbury, all the historical buildings, this is perhaps the most important, and it's absolutely a game changer. It's hard to understate how important this building is to the world. It is the first iron frame building in the world, and it's still here in Shrewsbury. And I'll just point out two practical reasons why it was iron framed. First of all, the iron columns inside supported iron beams, and then from those beams there was a brick arches supporting a brick floor for each floor, which meant the building was fireproof. Now, fire was a big problem in the early cotton mills. Many a one was burnt down. The second reason is because the weight of the building is carried by the internal framework, the iron framework, these outer walls, they don't hold any of the weight. So they can put as many windows in as they can. And they wanted to put windows in because it was a factory. They didn't have electric light in those days, and they needed the people working the machines to be able to see what they were doing. So they could put plenty of windows in. So two huge reasons why this was an absolute game changer in construction. This is the grand pathé of the Empire State Building and all the other skyscrapers. The flax mill is just so important that we hope to do a linked video in due course, going on in a bit more depth about the building and its history. But that's enough for now, and we're going to rejoin the canal where it crossed the road again, and you can just see the plaque of the bridge, the canal bridge. And we're going to go into the town centre. We're following Feachel's Lane into town now, but everything on the right originally was the canal terminus. This is where the wharves were, where the canal reached. And one of them is still there, the butter market. But by 1860, the canal traffic had declined and the canal was cut off here. And this was all developed as an engineering site, Corbett's. It was one of the biggest engineering factories in the West Midlands. Now it's occupied by Morris Oils, a really important industry for Shrewsbury still. This is the old Lancasterian school. It says established in 1813. It was originally where roughly the railway station is, but when the station was built, it was relocated to this new site. And it's called the Lancasterian, not because it's anything to do with Lancashire, but it used the methods invented by a certain Joseph Lancaster. And his theory of education was you got the older kids to teach the younger kids, teaching by monitors. And it was cheap as well, and it caught on. And here it is. The new prison had some unusual facilities, including that for public executions. Just above this window here, that's where they used to do the public executions in Shrewsbury. And they say up to 10,000 people would gather here to watch. Shortly after they stopped doing public executions, football crowds start to build up. You've got public entertainment that way. I don't know if there's any connection between the changeover. The prison was built in the 1790s, and it was a new prison, and it was built to provide better conditions for prisoners. And above the gate is the bust of Howard, John Howard, the prison reformer. I can't imagine our current Home Secretary, Priti Patel, wondering which Liberal do-goody she might name her next prison after. Well, we've come back to the start of our walk, Castle Walk's footbridge. I hope you've enjoyed our walk around Castlefields, exploring some of the key developments during the late 18th century that transformed Shrewsbury. If you have enjoyed it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hope you can join us again. Bye.